The morning sun shone through the crystal dome of Velstrom Academy. Students from across the galaxy walked through the main entrance. Some had scales, some had fur, and some glowed with soft light. They all talked excitedly about the new school year. Felix stood near the fountain in the center of the atrium. His crystalline body caught the light and made small rainbows on the floor. He was talking to a group of students about the rumors. "Did you hear? They accepted a human," Felix said. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "A creature from Earth, a Class 12 Deathworld." The other students looked worried. Everyone knew what a Class 12 rating meant. It meant the planet was extremely dangerous. Only the strongest species could survive there. "My parents told me to stay away from it," said a small furry student. "They said humans are predators." "Predators?" another student whispered. "Here? At the academy?" Hayori listened to the conversation from a distance. Her blue skin glowed softly as she used her telepathic sense. She could feel the fear spreading through the room like cold water. But she also felt something else. Curiosity. She wanted to meet this human and see if the rumors were true. The main doors opened again. This time, everyone stopped talking. A figure walked in, and it looked almost normal at first glance. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. The human wore the standard academy uniform. He had dark hair and a friendly expression on his face. Doyen smiled as he entered. He was happy to be here. He had worked hard to get accepted to this school. His dream was to learn about other species and make friends from different worlds. But as he walked forward, strange things happened. His footsteps made loud sounds on the floor. Other students had to jog to keep up with his normal walking speed. When he passed by, students moved away quickly. Some pressed themselves against the walls. Doyen did not notice. He walked up to the reception desk where Headmaster Quilon waited. The headmaster was a tall being with purple skin and 4 eyes. "Welcome to Velstrom Academy," Quilon said. He extended one of his 3 hands for a handshake. "Thank you so much," Doyen said. He took the headmaster's hand and shook it with what he thought was a gentle grip. Quilon's face went pale. His hand felt like it was being crushed. He pulled away quickly and tried not to show pain. 2 medical staff rushed forward to check his hand. "Oh no. I am so sorry," Doyen said. His face showed real concern. "Did I hurt you?" I tried to be gentle. "It is fine," Quilon said, though his hand was already swelling. "Just please be careful. You are much stronger than you realize." Doyen nodded, looking embarrassed. He did not understand why everyone seemed so fragile here. On Earth, that handshake was normal. He used even less force than usual. The headmaster showed Doyen to a seat in the orientation area. When Doyen sat down, the reinforced chair made a loud creaking sound. It was designed to hold beings up to 300 kilograms. Doyen weighed less than that, but his bone density was 3 times higher than most species. The chair bent slightly under the pressure. Students whispered to each other. They stared at Doyen from safe distances. Felix wrote notes on his datapad. He was already preparing a formal complaint. Hayori moved closer. She wanted to sense what the human was feeling. Her telepathic abilities let her feel emotions from other beings. What she found surprised her. Doyen was not angry or aggressive. He was nervous and excited. He wanted to make a good impression. He had no idea that everyone was afraid of him. The first classes went better than expected. Doyen paid attention during the lectures. He took careful notes. He asked good questions. In math class, he solved problems quickly. In galactic history, he showed genuine interest in other cultures. But small incidents kept happening. During a break, a door sensor malfunctioned. The heavy security door would not open. Students called for maintenance. Doyen walked up and said he could help. Before anyone could stop him, he grabbed the door with both hands and pulled. The metal door, which needed hydraulic power to open, slid aside easily. The locking mechanism made a cracking sound as it broke. "There you go," Doyen said with a smile. "The door is open now." The students just stared. Some backed away. Others took pictures with their devices. This story would spread across the entire school by lunch. At lunch, Doyen sat alone. He had brought food from Earth. His lunch included meat, which made some of the herbivore species uncomfortable. He also ate an apple, biting through it easily. His teeth, designed to tear through tough food, looked sharp and dangerous to the other students. Doyen noticed that no one sat near him. He felt lonely but tried to stay positive. Maybe they just needed time to get used to him. He did not realize that several students had already messaged their parents, asking if they could transfer to different schools. In the afternoon, Doyen mentioned during biology class that he had survived something called chickenpox as a child. The teacher, Professor Venn, stopped the lesson immediately. "You survived a pox virus?" the professor asked. "Naturally, without medical intervention." "Yes," Doyen said. "Most children on Earth get it. It is not that serious." The professor pulled up data on his screen. His expression showed shock. According to the Galactic Medical Database, the chickenpox virus would kill 90% of known species within days. Earth children survived it with only mild discomfort. "Remarkable," the professor whispered. "Absolutely remarkable and terrifying." By the end of the day, everyone knew about the human. They knew he could break security doors, survive deadly diseases, and had bones like ship armor. They also knew he seemed friendly and smiled a lot. But that smile showed his teeth, and teeth like that meant only one thing in nature: predator. The final class of the day was physical education orientation. Instructor Bex, a being with multiple tentacles and wise old eyes, addressed the class. "This semester, you will work together in gym class," Bex announced. "You will play sports, run exercises, and complete an obstacle course. Teams will be mixed. Everyone will participate." The room went silent. Every student looked at Doyen. The human sat in the back, looking excited about gym class. He loved sports back on Earth. Felix raised one of his crystalline arms. His voice was sharp with worry. "Instructor Bex, I must file a formal safety complaint. Having a Deathworlder in physical education puts us all at risk. Look at what happened to Headmaster Quilon's hand. That was just a handshake. Imagine what could happen during contact sports." Other students nodded in agreement. Doyun's face fell. He looked down at his hands. He had not meant to hurt anyone. He was trying his best to fit in. Yori felt the sadness coming from Doyun. It was strong and painful. She stood up, and her glowing skin brightened with emotion. "He did not mean to cause harm," Hiyori said. "I can sense his feelings. He is just as confused as we are. Maybe we should give him a chance." Felix turned to face her. His crystal body reflected light sharply. "Your empathy is admirable, Hiyori, but feelings do not change facts. Humans come from a death world. They are built to survive conditions that would kill us. This is not about intention. This is about safety." Instructor Bex raised a tentacle for silence. The old teacher had seen many things in 3 centuries of teaching, but never a human student. "I understand your concerns," Bex said slowly. "But this academy has accepted Doyen as a student. He has the right to participate in all activities. However, we will take extra safety measures. I will design special protocols for our gym classes. Doyen, would you be willing to work with me on this?" Doyen looked up. Hope showed in his eyes. "Yes, absolutely," he said. "I will do whatever you need. I do not want to hurt anyone. I just want to be part of the class." Bex nodded. The class was dismissed. As students filed out, they gave Doyen plenty of space. Most looked worried. Some looked angry. A few, like Hiyori, looked thoughtful. Doyen walked back to his dormitory alone. The halls seemed very quiet. On Earth, he had always been surrounded by friends. Here, he was surrounded by people who feared him. He sat on his bed and looked out the window at the alien sky. Tomorrow was the first actual gym class. He hoped things would get better. He had no idea how much worse they were about to become. The gymnasium was huge. It had special zones where gravity could be adjusted. Some areas had equipment for flying species. Other areas had pools for aquatic beings. The ceiling was high and soft light came from panels on the walls. Doyen arrived early wearing his gym clothes. He felt excited. Physical education had always been his favorite subject on Earth. He had done track and field, and he practiced martial arts 3 times a week. He missed running and moving freely. Other students came in slowly. They stayed as far from Doyun as possible. Velix arrived with a group of friends. They all wore special protective padding, even though it was not required. They clearly expected something to go wrong. Instructor Bex floated into the gym. His tentacles moved in graceful patterns as he addressed the class. Welcome to physical education. Today we start with warm-up exercises. These are simple movements to prepare your body for activity. Everyone will do the same routine. Bex demonstrated the exercises. They involved stretching and light movement. For most species in the class, these exercises were genuinely challenging. Some students began to breathe heavily after just a few minutes. Doyun finished the entire routine in less than 2 minutes. His breathing was normal. He was not even sweating. He looked around, confused. Were they going to start the real warm-up soon? Instructor Bex? Doyun raised his hand politely. When do we begin the actual warm-up? The class stopped moving. Everyone stared at him. Bex's tentacles twitched with surprise. That was the warm-up, Doyun. We just completed it. Oh, Doyun said. He tried not to look disappointed. Sorry, on Earth we usually warm up for about 15 minutes. This felt more like stretching. Velix made an angry sound. His crystal body vibrated with frustration. This is exactly the problem. The human thinks our maximum effort is just stretching. Bex raised a tentacle for silence. He looked thoughtful, then made a decision. Very well, Doyun, I am increasing the difficulty to maximum level. Let us see how you handle that. The instructor adjusted the settings on the exercise equipment. Resistance bands became much harder to pull. Weight platforms increased their mass. The gravity in Doyun's zone went up slightly. Doyun tried the new settings. He pulled the resistance bands, lifted the weights, and did the exercises. It was better. He could actually feel his muscles working now. But it still was not very hard. Back home, his normal workout was much more intense. This is good, Doyun said with a smile. Thank you, instructor. The other students looked exhausted just watching him. The equipment he was using would be impossible for most of them to even move. He was treating it like a light exercise. Next came the running track. It was a large circle around the gym. The gravity was set to 0.8 g, which was considered standard for most species. Bex explained that students should complete 3 laps at their own pace. Most would need 15 to 20 minutes with rest breaks allowed. The class started jogging. Doyun jogged too, but his idea of jogging was very different. He moved at what felt like a comfortable, easy pace to him. For everyone else, it looked like sprinting. Wind from his passing made other students stumble. Doyun completed 3 laps in 4 minutes. He was not tired at all. He stopped and waited for the others to finish. Some students were still on their first lap, moving slowly and breathing hard. Instructor Bex, may I do a few more laps? Doyun asked. I feel like I should exercise a bit more. Velix, who was struggling to finish his first lap, stopped completely. His crystal body made a sharp ringing sound like breaking glass. It was the sound his species made when extremely angry. This is insulting. He is showing off. He is making fun of us. Doyun looked shocked and hurt. No, I am not making fun of anyone. I just want to exercise. On Earth, I would run for an hour every morning before school. An hour? A small student whispered. Every morning? Is he a soldier? No, just a regular student, Doyun said, hearing the whisper. Most humans my age exercise regularly. It is normal. The class looked at him like he was crazy. What humans considered normal would be considered extreme military training for most species. Bex decided to move on to the next activity before more arguments started. He brought out equipment for gravball. It was a sport played with a floating ball. Teams would try to catch the ball and place it in goals. The rules said no hard contact was allowed. It was designed to be safe and gentle. Teams were assigned randomly. Doyun ended up on a team with Hiyori and 3 other students. They all looked nervous. The other team included Velix and several athletic students. The game started. The ball floated in the center of the playing area. A fast-flying student from the other team reached it first. She grabbed the ball and started flying toward the goal. Doyun ran to intercept. He jumped up, trying to catch the ball. When his feet left the ground, he jumped much higher than he expected. The lower gravity made his earth-trained muscles incredibly powerful. He shot upward like a rocket, grabbed the ball, and landed. When he caught the ball, it made a loud sound. The ball was designed to be soft and gentle, but the force of Doyen's grip compressed it like a stress ball. Air rushed out with a sound like a small explosion. Students near him were knocked back by the air pressure from his landing. They were not hurt, just startled and pushed aside. Doyen did not notice. He was happy he caught the ball. "I got it," he said excitedly. "Where do I take it?" Hiyori pointed at the goal, but she could barely speak. She was shocked by what she just saw. Doyen ran toward the goal. Other players tried to stop him, but they could not keep up. When he threw the ball toward the goal, it moved so fast it was almost invisible. The ball hit the goal net and went straight through it, tearing the material. It hit the wall behind with a loud bang. Silence filled the gym. Doyen looked confused. "Did I score? I'm not sure what happened." The net broke. Bex floated down quickly. His tentacles moved in distressed patterns. "Everyone stop. Medical team, please check all students for injuries." 3 students needed to go to the medical bay. One had been too close when Doyen landed and got knocked down. Another had been brushed by his arm during the run and had a bruise. A third was just in shock and needed to lie down. None of the injuries were serious, but they could have been. Doyen stood in the middle of the gym. His face showed horror and guilt. He had hurt people. Again. He was trying so hard to be gentle, but he still caused harm. "I am so sorry," he said quietly. "I did not mean to hurt anyone. I was just trying to play the game." Felix had seen enough. He gathered a group of students and approached Instructor Bex. His voice was firm and loud enough for everyone to hear. "Instructor, we demand that the human be removed from this class. This is the second group of students injured today. We have documented proof that humans are dangerous. They are classified as persistence predators. Their bone density is 3 times ours. They can run for hours without stopping. They heal from injuries that would kill us. This is not safe." He held up his data pad, showing medical files and classification reports about humans and Earth. The information was frightening. Humans evolved on a planet with crushing gravity, deadly predators, and extreme weather. They were built to survive and hunt. Every part of their body was designed for endurance and power. Most of the class nodded in agreement. They wanted Doyen removed. He was too dangerous, even if he did not mean to be. Yori stepped forward. Her skin glowed brighter with emotion. "Wait. Please listen. I can sense his emotions. Doyen is not trying to hurt anyone. He feels terrible about the injuries. He is confused and sad. He does not understand his own strength because where he comes from, he is normal. Maybe we are being unfair." Felix turned to face her. His crystal body was rigid with anger. "Hiyori, your empathy is clouding your judgment. Intentions do not matter when people get hurt. He cannot control his strength. He is a danger to everyone here." Instructor Bex raised several tentacles, calling for quiet. The old teacher looked tired. This situation was unprecedented. Never in 300 years had he dealt with such a problem. "I understand your concerns, and they are valid. However, Doyen is an enrolled student with the same rights as everyone else. I cannot remove him from the class based on his species alone. That would be discrimination." Bex turned to Doyen. "However, we must make changes. Doyen, would you be willing to wear mobility limiters during team activities? They will restrict your speed and strength to safer levels." Doyen nodded quickly. "Yes, absolutely. I will wear whatever you need. I will do anything to make this work. I promise I will be more careful." The class was dismissed early. Students left quickly, talking among themselves. Most looked relieved that something would be done. Some still looked angry and scared. As everyone filed out, Hiyori approached Doyen. He was sitting on a bench, looking down at his hands like they were foreign objects he did not understand. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. Doyen looked up. His eyes were sad. "Why is everyone so scared of me, Hiyori? I am just a normal person. I am not trying to hurt anyone. I was just playing a game." Hiyori sat down next to him, keeping a careful distance. "You are normal, Doyen. But normal is different for everyone. What is easy for you is impossible for us. What feels gentle to you can hurt us badly. Even your children on Earth are stronger than most adult aliens. It is not your fault. It is just how things are." Doyen was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke softly. "This is going to be." 3 weeks passed. Doyen wore the mobility limiters every day during gym class. They looked like silver bands around his wrists and ankles. They used special technology to restrict his movements, making him slower and weaker. It felt strange, like moving through water. With the limiters, he could participate in activities without accidentally hurting anyone, but it was frustrating. Every movement took concentration. He had to think about every step, every reach, every gesture. Things that should be natural required constant attention. Instructor Bex worked with him during private sessions after class. The old teacher was patient and kind. "You are improving," Bex said one afternoon. "Your control is much better. You are learning to be aware of your strength." Doyen practiced picking up delicate objects. He learned to walk slowly enough that others could keep pace. He discovered how to catch a ball without crushing it. Each small success felt like a victory. Hayori volunteered to help him practice. She would bring objects of different fragility, and Doyen would practice handling them. Glasses, thin papers, electronic devices. He learned to judge how much force was safe. "You are doing well," Hiyori said during one session. "Last week you broke 3 glasses. Today you did not break any." Doyen smiled tiredly. "It is like learning to be a different person. On Earth I never thought about these things. I just moved and acted normally. Here everything requires so much thought." During these practice sessions, Doyen began sharing stories about Earth. He talked about his home in Seoul, about his family, about daily life on his planet. The aliens found his stories both fascinating and horrifying. "The gravity is so strong that when you sleep it presses down on your chest," Doyen explained. "When you wake up, your body aches until you move around. We just accept it as normal." Hayori looked shocked. "That would be considered torture on my world." "How do you live like that?" Doyen shrugged. "We do not know any different. To us, this academy feels like floating. The gravity here is so light. I feel like I could fly if I jumped hard enough." Other students started listening to these conversations. They were curious despite their fear. Doyen told them about Earth sports. Football, basketball, marathon running, martial arts. Activities that would be impossible for most aliens were just entertainment for humans. One student asked about dangerous animals on Earth. Doyen mentioned lions, bears, crocodiles, and sharks. The students looked terrified. "And humans live on the same planet as these creatures?" someone asked. "Yes," Doyen said. "We built cities and learned to coexist with them. Some animals are more dangerous than others, but we manage. Humans are not the strongest species on Earth. We are just smart and stubborn." This information changed how some students saw him. Doyen was not the scariest thing from his planet. He was actually one of the weaker species there, surviving through intelligence rather than pure physical power. It was a humbling thought. Then came the day that changed everything. Thax, the massive Kravist warrior, had been watching Doyen for weeks. Thax stood 8 feet tall with thick armored skin. His species was famous across the galaxy for their strength and combat skill. He was the strongest student in the academy. Thax had been quiet during all the debates about Doyen. He did not join Velix's complaints. He did not avoid the human. He just watched and thought. One day after class, Thax approached Doyen in the gym. His heavy footsteps made the floor shake. "Human," Thax said in his deep voice. "I challenge you." The gym went silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing. A challenge from a Kravist warrior was serious business. Doyen looked up at the massive alien. He felt nervous but tried not to show it. What kind of challenge? A test of strength and endurance. In the combat simulator with full safety protocols. "I want to know if the rumors about Deathworlders are true." Doyen did not want to fight. He had been working so hard to seem less dangerous. But refusing a formal challenge would be insulting. He looked at Instructor Bex for guidance. Bex nodded slowly. "The challenge is within Academy rules. However, Doyen, you do not have to accept if you do not want to." Doyen thought about it. Maybe this could help. If he competed fairly, if he showed what he could really do in a controlled setting, maybe people would understand him better. "I accept," Doyen said, "but I will not wear the mobility limiters. You deserve to compete against my actual abilities, not a restricted version." Thax showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. "Good. I want to face the real you." Word spread quickly. By the next day, the entire school knew about the challenge. Students gathered in the observation area around the combat simulator. Even teachers came to watch. This was unprecedented. The combat simulator was a large room with adjustable settings. It could test strength, speed, endurance, and pain tolerance. All within safe limits. Injuries were impossible due to the safety fields. Thax and Doyen stood at opposite ends of the room. Doyen removed his mobility limiters. For the first time since arriving at the academy, He could move freely. It felt amazing. The first test was pure strength. Heavy weights appeared on platforms. Both competitors had to lift as much as possible. Thax went first, his massive muscles strained as he lifted an enormous weight. The crowd cheered. It was impressive. Then it was Doyen's turn. He approached the weights and lifted the same amount easily. Then he added more weight. And more. He kept adding weight until the machine reached its maximum capacity. Then he lifted that. The machine's warning alarms went off. It was not designed for this much force. The crowd was silent. Even Velix stopped making notes and just stared. The second test was endurance running. Who could run the longest before their body demanded rest? Thax ran for 45 minutes at a steady pace. It was a remarkable performance. He finally stopped breathing hard, his body covered in sweat. Doyen started running. 1 hour passed. Then 2 hours. His breathing was steady. His pace never changed. Instructor Bex finally stopped the test after 3 hours. Doyen's heart rate had barely increased. How? Someone in the crowd whispered. How is that possible? Hiyori, watching from the front, understood. Humans were persistence hunters. They evolved to run down prey over vast distances. 3 hours was nothing for a healthy human in good condition. The third test was pain tolerance. The simulator would create the sensation of pain at increasing levels. Most beings could handle level 5. Warriors like Thax could reach level 7 before tapping out. Thax endured level 7 for several minutes before signaling his surrender. He was proud of this achievement. It was the highest level most Kravist could manage. Doyen took his turn. Level 1, level 2, level 3. He showed no reaction. Level 5, level 6, level 7. He gritted his teeth but did not stop. Level 8. His hands clenched into fists. Level 9. Sweat appeared on his forehead. Level 10. The maximum. Doyen stood there for a full minute at level 10 before the test automatically ended. When it finished, he took a deep breath and shook his head. That felt like a bad dentist appointment, he said casually. Not fun, but manageable. The crowd did not know how to react. What kind of species considered maximum pain levels similar to dental work? Thax walked over to Doyen. Everyone expected him to be angry or embarrassed. Instead, he did something that shocked everyone. He performed the Kravist warrior salute. He placed his right hand over his heart and bowed his head. You have my respect, Doyen of Earth, Thax said formally. You could have humiliated me. You could have finished each test in seconds and made me look weak, but you showed restraint. You gave me time to complete my tests first. You did not mock my efforts. This is the mark of a true warrior. Doyen looked surprised. I would never mock you, Thax. You are very strong. I am just built differently. It is not something I earned. It is just how I am. That makes it more impressive, Thax replied. You have great power but choose not to use it carelessly. That is wisdom. That is strength of character, not just strength of body. Something changed in the gym that day. Students started looking at Doyen differently. He was not just a dangerous Deathworlder. He was someone who could have hurt them at any time but chose not to. Someone who wore restrictive limiters every day without complaint. Someone who tried so hard to fit into a world not made for him. Even Velix seemed different. After the demonstration, he approached Doyen. His crystal body did not make the angry ringing sound anymore. I owe you an apology, Velix said stiffly. I judged you based on classification rather than character. I was wrong. You are not dangerous because you are strong. You are trustworthy because you are strong and choose restraint. Doyen smiled, a genuine happy smile. Thank you, Velix. That means a lot to me. That evening, Doyen sat in his room. For the first time since arriving at the academy, he felt hopeful. He sent a message home to his parents on Earth. Things are getting better, he wrote. People are starting to understand. I am starting to understand too. This is hard, but I think I can do it. I am making friends. As he looked out at the alien stars, Doyen felt less alone. The journey was not over. He still had much to learn, and so did everyone else. But they were learning together. And that made all the difference. The end of the semester was approaching. Instructor Beck stood before the class with an announcement that made everyone nervous. Your final exam will be the obstacle course, Beck said. You will work in teams of 5. The course requires cooperation between different species. Your team must solve puzzles, cross dangerous terrain, and rescue a simulation dummy from a collapsed structure. You will be graded on speed, teamwork, and most importantly, everyone must finish together. A holographic display showed the course. It looked difficult. There were sections with changing gravity, complex locks, unstable structures, and environmental hazards. Teams will be assigned randomly. Bex continued. No changes will be allowed. The computer generated the team assignments. When the list appeared on the screen, several students gasped. Team 7 consisted of Doyen, Velix, Hori, Thax, and Kieran. It was a challenging combination. Velix was strong intellectually but physically fragile. His crystalline body could break under stress. Hori had telepathic abilities but weak muscles. Thax was powerful but slow and heavy. Kieran was a winged Aven with hollow bones and excellent vision but could be hurt easily. And Doyen was a human, stronger than all of them combined. Velix immediately spoke up. Instructor, this team composition is unbalanced. The human will either carry everyone or accidentally injure us during the course. Doyun felt a familiar disappointment. Things had been better lately, but Velix still did not fully trust him. Before Bex could respond, Doyen stood up. What if I do not lead? He suggested. What if I play a support role instead? I can help the team without taking over. You all are smart and skilled. Maybe you do not need me to be in charge. Maybe you need me to be the one who helps everyone else succeed. The classroom was quiet. This was unexpected. Most strong beings wanted to lead. Doyen was offering to step back. Thax nodded approvingly. That is a wise approach. The human understands strategy. Hori smiled. Her skin glowed with pleased emotion. I think we can make this work, she said. We should at least try. Velix was silent for a moment, then reluctantly agreed. Very well. We will attempt this as a team. The team met several times before the exam to plan their strategy. They studied the course layout and discussed how to use each member's abilities. Doyen listened more than he spoke, letting the others develop the plan. The day of the final exam arrived. Teams entered the course one at a time. When Team 7's turn came, they stood at the entrance together. Doyen wore his mobility limiters as usual, but he knew he might need to remove them during the course. The first section was the gravity well. It was a large chamber where gravity fluctuated randomly. Sometimes it was very light, almost zero. Sometimes it became crushingly heavy, reaching 2.5 G. These changes happened without warning. Kieran flew during the low-gravity phases, scouting ahead, but when gravity suddenly increased, she fell from the air. Felix's crystalline structure could shatter under high gravity. Hori used her telepathic sense to predict the gravity shifts by feeling the field fluctuations. Gravity increase in 5 seconds. Hori called out, "Get to the human!" Doyen quickly removed his mobility limiters. When the gravity increased to 2.5 G, it felt almost like home to him. He stood firm while others struggled. His teammates gathered around him, using him as an anchor point. Thax held onto his shoulder. Velix clutched his arm carefully. Hori and Kieran pressed close. The heavy gravity that would crush most beings was just normal Earth gravity for Doyen. He did not even strain. He provided a stable point where his team could rest and plan their next move during the dangerous high-gravity phases. Now I understand, Velix said quietly during one high-gravity phase. You live in this every day. This is your normal. Doyen nodded. Yes, on Earth this is just regular gravity. It presses down on us all the time. We do not notice it anymore. They crossed the gravity well using teamwork and Hori's predictions. It took time, but everyone made it through safely. The second section was the puzzle chamber. A complex lock mechanism blocked the exit. The components were spread across the room. Some were high on the ceiling. Some required delicate manipulation. Some needed force to activate. Kieran flew up to scout from above, calling out positions of different components. Velix's precise crystalline appendages handled the delicate work, adjusting microscopic settings. Thax used his mass to trigger heavy pressure plates. Hori coordinated everyone telepathically, sharing information instantly. Doyen became their mobile platform. He held teammates at exact heights while they worked. When Velix needed to reach a high component, Doyen lifted him carefully, holding perfectly still so the crystalline being could make precise adjustments without trembling. When Kieran tired from flying, she rested on his shoulders while directing others. Perfect stability, Felix said with appreciation. Not even advanced machinery could hold this steady. The human is an excellent support structure. The lock opened. They moved to the final section. The collapse structure was the most dangerous part. A simulation dummy was trapped under rubble in an unstable building. The structure could collapse completely if they moved the wrong piece of debris. Kieran flew through the wreckage, identifying structural weak points from above. HFY used her environmental awareness to sense where stress was building in the damaged structure. Felix calculated precise force vectors, determining which pieces could be moved safely. "We need to remove the large beam on the left first," Felix instructed. "Then the two smaller pieces. Then we can reach the dummy." Thax and Doyen worked together on the heavy lifting. They moved carefully, following Felix's calculations exactly. Each piece of rubble was lifted and placed gently aside. They were making good progress. Then disaster struck. A support beam that Felix had calculated as stable suddenly began to fail. An unseen crack spread rapidly through the metal. The entire structure started to collapse. "Everyone back," HFY shouted, sensing the danger through her abilities. But they were not fast enough. The beam was falling directly toward Felix and Kieran. They could not escape in time. Their bodies were too fragile to survive even a simulated impact. Doyen moved without thinking. He lunged forward and caught the falling beam. His hands gripped the metal and his legs braced against the floor. The weight was enormous. Even for a human, this was at the limit of what he could handle. More rubble fell. Doyen could not move. If he let go or shifted position, the entire structure would collapse on all of them. He became a living support column, holding tons of weight on his shoulders. His muscles screamed. His bones, dense and strong as they were, felt the pressure. Sweat poured down his face. This was real strain, real effort, real danger. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Doyen was pushing his absolute limits. "Get the dummy and get out," he managed to say through gritted teeth. "I cannot hold this much longer." His teammates stared at him in shock. They had never seen him struggle before. They had never seen him in real danger. And suddenly they were not afraid of him anymore. They were afraid for him. "Move," Thax roared. "We cannot let him sacrifice himself." The team moved with desperate speed. HFY guided them around the most dangerous spots. Kieran flew through small gaps. Felix calculated the fastest path. Thax grabbed the dummy and started moving back, but they could not leave Doyen behind. That was not how teams worked. That was not what friends did. "Thax, help me lift this section," Felix shouted, pointing to a piece of debris. "If we create a secondary support, the human can escape." Working together, following Felix's instructions, they created a temporary support structure. It would only hold for a few seconds, but a few seconds was all they needed. "Doyen, on 3, let go and run," HFY called out. 1, 2, 3. Doyen released the beam and ran. The structure collapsed behind him in a thunderous crash. His team pulled him to safety just as the last supports failed. They all tumbled out of the danger zone together. For a moment, they just lay there, breathing hard. Then they realized they had done it. They had the dummy. Everyone was safe. They had completed the course. The team walked together to the finish line. They were not the fastest team. Some groups had finished 10 minutes earlier. But when their scores appeared, they had the highest cooperation rating in the entire class. In the recovery area, Doyen sat catching his breath. His arms were shaking slightly. He had pushed himself harder than he had in months. It felt good in a strange way. It felt real. Felix approached and sat down next to him. The crystalline being was quiet for a moment, then spoke softly. "Thank you for saving us. You put yourself in danger to protect the team." Doyen looked surprised. "Of course. You are my teammates. That is what teams do." Felix's body chimed softly, a sound his species made when experiencing strong emotion. "I was wrong about you, Doyen. I thought you were dangerous because you were strong. But today I learned the truth. You are not dangerous because you are strong. You are trustworthy because you are strong and choose to use that strength to protect others. That is what makes you a good person." The rest of the team gathered around. Thax placed a heavy hand on Doyen's shoulder. "You are a true warrior, human. Not because you can destroy, but because you choose to protect." HFY's skin glowed bright with happiness. "I knew you had a good heart. Now everyone else knows it too." Kieran chirped in agreement, her wings fluttering. "Best team ever." News of the obstacle course spread quickly through the academy. Students who had watched the event shared videos and stories. The footage of Doyen holding up the collapsing structure while his teammates escaped became viral on the Galactic Student Network. Comments flooded in from students across the galaxy. Most expressed amazement. Some showed respect. A few were still frightened. But even they acknowledged that the human had risked his life to save his teammates. The atmosphere at Velstrom Academy changed. When Doyen walked through the halls now, students no longer pressed themselves against the walls. Some even said hello. A few brave ones asked questions about Earth and human culture. In gym class, everything was different. Instructor Bex had redesigned the curriculum to include Doyen in a positive way, rather than just restricting him. During strength training, Doyen demonstrated proper form and technique at slowed-down speed so others could learn. He became a living example of how muscles should move and work. Students who struggled with exercises could use him as a stable support structure, just like the team had during the obstacle course. Bex also created a new class called Extreme Endurance Training. It was optional, but several curious students signed up. They wanted to challenge themselves and understand what effort meant to a Deathworlder. The first extreme endurance session started with a simple goal: run for 15 minutes without stopping. For most students, this was at the very edge of their capabilities. For Doyen, it was a gentle warm-up. But something beautiful happened. As students pushed themselves to their limits, Doyen encouraged them. He jogged alongside the slower students, offering words of support. When someone wanted to give up, he reminded them how far they had already come. Thax joined the class, determined to match human endurance through sheer willpower. He could not match Doyen's natural abilities, but he pushed himself harder than ever before. The two developed a friendly rivalry that inspired other students. Felix surprised everyone by joining too. His crystalline body was not built for endurance, but he wanted to understand what Doyen experienced every day. After one session, he sat exhausted on the gym floor. "Now I understand your restraint even better," Doyen said. "You could do this all day without effort, yet you slow yourself to match our pace. That is remarkable patience." Doyen sat down next to him, careful not to sit too close. "It is not patience, it is friendship. Friends adjust their pace for each other. That is what makes them friends." Hiyori expanded her cultural exchange club. She invited Doyen to give regular presentations about Earth. He talked about human history, about the challenges of living on a death world, about the diversity of human cultures. One presentation focused on human food. Doyen explained that humans could eat a wide variety of things that would be toxic to other species. He showed them pictures of spicy food which humans ate for pleasure despite the pain it caused. "You eat food that hurts you?" a student asked. "On purpose? For fun?" Doyen laughed. "Yes. We find it enjoyable. The burning sensation from spicy food releases chemicals in our brain that make us feel good." The aliens looked at each other in amazement. Humans experienced pain as pleasure. It explained so much about their behavior. Another presentation covered human sports and entertainment. Doyen showed videos of activities that made the alien students gasp in shock. People jumping out of aircraft for fun. People climbing mountains without safety equipment. People running races across deserts. These activities looked like suicide attempts to most species. To humans, they were hobbies. But humans also die doing these activities. "Sometimes," Kiran asked. "Why do you do them if they are dangerous?" Doyen thought about this carefully. Because challenge makes us feel alive. Because pushing our limits helps us grow. Because we evolved on a planet that constantly challenged us, and that became part of who we are. We do not seek death. We seek to prove we can survive anything. This answer resonated with the students. They began to understand the human mindset. Humans were not aggressive or violent by nature. They were survivors who had internalized their harsh environment. As the semester drew to a close, the Academy hosted a special event. Each species would demonstrate something unique from their culture. It was a celebration of diversity. Doyen decided to perform a traditional Korean martial arts demonstration. He had practiced Taekwondo since childhood. He wanted to show the artistry and control in human martial arts, not just the power. The entire school gathered in the main auditorium. Students from all years attended. Teachers sat in the front rows. Even the headmaster came, his hand now fully healed from that first unfortunate handshake. When it was Doyen's turn, he walked onto the stage wearing his traditional uniform. The white clothing looked simple but moved beautifully. He removed his mobility limiters. For this demonstration, he wanted to show his true abilities. The performance began. Doyun moved through the forms slowly and precisely. Each movement was controlled and deliberate. Kicks that could break bones were executed with grace. Punches that could shatter walls stopped perfectly in midair. Spins and jumps displayed incredible balance and power. But what amazed the audience most was not the power. It was the control. They watched this being who could accidentally hurt them with a handshake move with perfect precision. They saw someone who lived every day holding back his true capabilities. They witnessed art, not violence. When the demonstration ended, the auditorium was silent for a moment. Then applause erupted. It started small but grew louder. Students stood up. Teachers joined in. Soon everyone was standing and applauding. Doyen bowed in the traditional way, deeply and respectfully. He put his mobility limiters back on and returned to his seat near his friends. "That was beautiful," Hiyori whispered. Her skin glowed bright with emotion. "You showed them your true self. Not the dangerous Deathworlder they feared, but the disciplined person you really are." After the event, something unexpected happened. 3. Academy representatives approached Doyen with an offer. "Mr. Doyen," one of them said formally, "the Interspecies Athletic Committee would like to invite you to join as a consultant. We are redesigning galactic sports to be more inclusive. Your perspective would be invaluable." Doyen was stunned. They wanted his help? They trusted him with something important. "I would be honored," he said quietly. More good news came. Headmaster Quilon announced that Velstrom Academy would formally request more human exchange students. Doyen's success had proven the value of including Deathworlders in galactic education. On the last day of the semester, Doyen sat with his friends in the cafeteria. They were making plans for the break period. Thax wanted everyone to visit his homeworld. Felix suggested a tour of his moon colony. Kieran invited them to her floating cities. And then Hiyori made a surprising suggestion. "What if we visit Earth? I want to see where Doyun comes from. I want to understand his world." The others looked uncertain. Earth was a death world. The gravity alone would be painful, but then Thax nodded. "I agree. Doyen has adapted to our world. We should try to understand his, even if it is difficult." Felix's crystal body chimed with agreement. "I will need significant support equipment, but yes. I want to meet Doyen's family and see Sol." Doyen felt overwhelming happiness. His friends wanted to visit Earth. They wanted to understand him that much. "My parents will be so excited to meet you all. Fair warning though, my mother will try to feed you constantly. Korean hospitality is very intense." Everyone laughed. They had learned so much this semester. They had grown together, learned together, and become true friends. As they left the cafeteria together, Doyen thought about his journey. He had arrived at this academy months ago, alone and afraid. Everyone had feared him. He had felt like a monster, but he had learned that strength was not the same as danger. That power meant responsibility. That being different was not wrong, just different. And most importantly, that friendship could bridge any gap, even the gap between a Deathworlder and the rest of the galaxy. Later that evening, Doyun stood at the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Tomorrow, new human students would arrive. He had volunteered to help them adjust, to teach them what he had learned. A transport ship appeared in the distance. Doyen smiled. He knew exactly how those new students felt right now. Nervous, excited, worried about fitting in. But he would be there for them. He would help them understand that being a human in a galaxy of fragile beings was not a curse. It was an opportunity to learn patience, to practice kindness, and to prove that strength and gentleness could exist together. Hiyori joined him at the observation window. Her skin glowed softly in the dim light. "Thinking about the new arrivals?" "Yes. I remember my first day so clearly. I was so confused and hurt when everyone was afraid of me. You have come far since then. You changed this entire academy. You showed us that our prejudices were wrong. Doyen shook his head. We all changed. I learned to control my strength. You learned to see past your fears. Velix learned to judge individuals, not species. Thax learned that different kinds of strength exist. We all grew together. Hori smiled. That is what makes our friendship special. We did not just tolerate our differences. We celebrated them. The transport ship grew closer. Doyen could imagine the nervous humans inside, wondering what awaited them. He would greet them with the same smile that had once terrified people. But now that smile meant